Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I got an opportunity to put Marconi's reel back together again. So those of you that saw the previews of this noticed that well, we're missing the handle that broke off. Well, this is a Penn Fierce IV 8000 LiveLiner. And the only way to do that is to replace the body. Those bodies are available, so that's the good news. Bad news is essentially you got to move the whole reel over to that body. I guess that's why they call it the main body. Well, we're going to do that. We'll show you how to take the reel apart and how to transfer all those pieces and parts over and get this one fishing again. If you like this type of a video, I want to encourage you to subscribe. And if you do subscribe, please use that notification button. So Marco, he ran into a little bit of bad luck. And this thing snapped off. It happens. And I guess that's why they sell replacement bodies. So if you find yourself in a situation like that, maybe it's a Penn reel. If it's a Penn reel, you can get that replacement part from mysticparts.com. And if it's another reel, well, check the internet. It's always places out there where you can find pieces and parts for other types of reels. And chief among them, well, Southwestern Parts and Platinum Parts are two that are very good at providing the replacement parts or just plain service parts for the majority of the other reels. Okay, we're going to start by taking off the side plate, the handle side, if you will. This has got a reversible handle, so let's call this one the, not the main body, call it the side plate. All right, when I take this side plate off, I remove the screw so that I can take this lever of the arm off, but not this one. That's going to hold the subassembly for the trip mechanism in it. And you can transfer those pieces and parts, and you can service the reel without removing that. As a matter of fact, I recommend that you don't remove that, because if you do, then you're subject to pulling the spring assemblies and the trip levers out, and then, well, you got a little bit more of an effort there in terms of servicing it. And since it's only springs and metal, there's no wearable parts in there. It just makes sense to leave well enough alone. All right, I'm just loosening these. These have got that unusual screw. I have that driver for it. I really don't like the way that the driver fits my hand. For whatever reason, my knuckles tend to tire or get a little achy using this one. I think it's probably just the shape of the grip. Whatever it is, I don't like it. And one of the things that I would encourage you to do, if you're going to take reel repairs seriously, is find the tools that fit your hand. They're kind of like gloves and everything else. Some fit better than others. I have a good friend of mine who's an electrician, swears by a particular set of screwdrivers. He said that those are the ones that work for him and keep him working. And well, I've tried them, and I just don't like the feel of them. For whatever reason, everybody's hand is a little bit differently, so the fit is different. So try the ones that you like and stick with those. All right, 4 screws are out. We should be able to take the side plate off now, and we are on our way to restoring the reel. This is what I was referring to before. If you take that screw out of here, you're going to push the post. If you push the post, you're probably going to pop this spring. If you pop this spring, this lever is going to fall down. It's like the house of cards, right? So do your best to just leave it intact, and well, you'll be all the better for it. If you are in that position where it all fell apart, I will take a second here after I clean the grease off to show you this close up so that you can see how it's installed. This is the trip lever shaft. It has a spring on it that goes through and hooks around. Has a 90-degree spring that fits here in the case. You have 2 screws holding on the bar that's going to actually be the trip. It's going to lock into the ratchet below, in the drag to allow that to set the top. And then here's your other spring over here. Okay, we're going to bring all of this down because everything has to come apart. And you can see this reel has not been used very much. And unfortunately, it did fall into a problem. All right, we're going to take the gate that holds the crosswind block onto the axle shaft. I'm going to take that off by removing the screw right here. And when I take my pieces and parts off, they go into a parts tray. I use a fast food container. It has 8 corners in it, and it works perfectly for me to organize my pieces and parts by sub-assemblies, putting them in various corners of that container. There's a lot of different ways to manage the parts that you remove. I would encourage you to make sure before you start removing pieces and parts that you know where you're going to put them and what system you're going to use. Worst thing that can happen to you is you start taking pieces and parts off, you get all excited and start removing them from everywhere, and well, next thing you know, it's time to reinstall and you've got them mixed up or lost, and then of course it becomes quite the project to go find them or to resurrect the pieces and where they go. Well, the other thing I want to encourage you to do is to take pictures along the way. That's going to help you when you reinstall. This is your crosswind block. I've cleaned out the face and the groove where the slide works. And we're going to put that back in there as well. And then I believe we have a screw holding this in here. That's actually the second piece that we will transfer over. So let's remove that. And we should be able to remove the whole assembly there. And there's one little screw hanging around in here. So I'm going to get that out. And then we have the side cap nut. Well, that one's on tight. I'm going to just use a little channel grip pliers here. Remove that. Then I want to push the bearing through. And everything's short of removing the lower drag assembly. And that's what this is, right? Except that we have the rotor assembly up top. So let's keep going. I'm going to just put these pieces here for a moment. And I kind of work in reverse here. You know what, before we get too much further along, why don't we just put some of this back together again? It'll be easier. You take the bearing and put that into the side plate. Going to oil that bearing. We'll take that crosswind gear. Make sure that it's clean on the back end. It's pretty clean all around on this reel. I don't know how it broke the handle off, but it did break the handle off. A lot of times that's the result of the reel hitting, maybe hitting the deck, falling off a rod. Maybe it wasn't properly secured to the rod and pulled free. Sometimes it's as simple as taking it out of the box and having it slip out of your hands. Whatever it is, you need to make sure that, well, you're careful as you do all of those activities. Otherwise, well, you may be using this video to do exactly what I'm doing here. So this video can be used on how to service the reel, or it can simply be used for what we're doing right here, which is making sure that we put all of the pieces and parts back together again. This was the side plate cap. All right, so we're going to keep a couple of different projects going here, but the next thing I want to do, knock that free. We'll get over there. We'll show you that in a moment. I want to remove the screw from the top here. We're going to transfer these elements now. On the top end here, we have the rotor, we have the pinion gear stack, and we have the anti-reverse clutch and assembly. It starts by removing the collar There's a little screw, and there's this hold fast collar. And I believe this is a 15 millimeter nut. The ones I've worked on recently, I probably should know that. We're going to remove this. We're going to spray the joints here for the bail and the line roller with some penetrating oil. Work that in. Also want to take a moment here to clean up. So we'll take that paper towel that I have, which is pretty much just about used to its limits. Take a moment to thank Bill here for sending these cotton swabs in. Apparently Bill ordered a lifetime supply plus 2 of cotton swabs and was kind enough to send those along. Notice that there is a washer here on the top. Check underneath, make sure that you don't have any salts or sands or anything like that in there. If it's reasonably clean, just again shoot where the Z-bar comes through as your bail trip. Just work it back and forth a couple of times. That's fine. This is a secondary anti-reverse dog. It's kind of the fail-safe. It will take stress off of the primary, which is inside the stack. We're going to remove the eccentric collar. That's going to activate your dog. There's a spring and collar on that. And normally I would be putting these back into my parts tray, but because we are kind of going right back in once we take these pieces and parts off, I'm going to leave them there for now. Of course, that's always an issue because, well, it's easy enough to have them fall out and break on you. Get knocked off the desk. Get all kinds of things happen to them. So generally speaking, I will use the parts tray as my go-to source. Most of the time these would go into the parts tray because I'll take these off, I'll do a kind of a thorough cleaning, I'll do some other things, and if I walk away from the project, I want to make sure that, well, I can have something to come back to. Alright, take this off. This is the tie down that holds your pinion gear assembly in place. That pinion gear assembly has 2 bearings and an anti-reverse clutch on it. And that's the next thing we're going to transfer over. I'll pull this out. Looks like we're going to have to transfer this anti-reverse dog as well. Alright, we can do that after we do the pinion gear. We're going to take the collar off. Top bearing is a sealed bearing. Then we have our anti-reverse collar. Then we have a lower bearing. It's just stuck to that anti-reverse collar. Then we have the pinion gear. This is why it's not a good idea to keep the pieces and parts on your desk, as they can easily get bumped out of the way. Alright, just cleaning that up. Swinging this around. Once that's clean and your grooves are clear, part of your normal maintenance would be to fill this up with grease. I'm using Penn Precision Reel Grease, and I recommend that you use fishing reel grease for all of your fishing reel projects. Don't use the ordinary household grease or greases intended for other purposes, automotive greases and the like. Stay with your greases for fishing reels and you'll never get in trouble with that. There's 2 sides to this anti-reverse clutch. There's a plastic side and a metal side. That was a good place to take pictures. If you didn't, the plastic side goes down and your gear sleeve goes. Now on this, it's a sealed bearing, so you don't do anything. There is a lip on the bottom of this. The lip faces down. We can bring that over to the new assembly. Insert that in. The collar is asymmetrical. It has a flat side. The flat side faces your anti-reverse dog location. Then we can go put those 3 screws back in. Well, if you have any questions on this or any reel, maybe you're working on one and you're stuck, maybe you want to know a little bit more, maybe you're curious about bait feeders, period. That's what this one is. If you leave those questions in the comment section, I will try to answer those for you. All right, The first one I don't tighten down all the way because you need a little bit of room, the old wiggle room, to get the other two lined up correctly. This is your second. And I'll leave that a little bit proud right now as well. I'll come over and do the third one. So this happens occasionally. I had a Mitchell 300 I grew up with that it happened more than occasionally. My dad was a operating engineer who's also skilled in welding, and he attempted to weld that aluminum handle several times, or that pot metal handle several times, and it broke off. Those were, well, let's call it operator error to start with. Don't know how I broke it the first time, but after I broke it the first time, that weld just didn't hold. And the answer really is that you should have replaced the body at that time, but we're looking back in the 1960s now, and I guess it wasn't as common. All right, we're going to just tighten all of these down now. This has that through slot. You need to match your screwdriver to the slot. You saw me change the screwdriver there. It just wasn't holding well. You don't want to butterfly out the slots. That'll make it very difficult to remove and install in the future. Almost done there. I'm going to go back to the first one that we set. We only have one more piece to take off that other housing, and that is the anti-reverse dog. So there's a lot of lessons in this one if you are wondering how to replace the anti-reverse dog in yours. And again, this is the backup dog. That anti-reverse clutch is the primary. I'm going to remove this E-clip here. Put that right on my bench. This assembly just comes up. There's a spring below it. Just reset that. So your spring rests along the side of the case here, goes around the post, and then it's got a hook that sits in here. Once that's, and it goes inside this little piece here. There we go. I have to lift it up to get it in. We can put the E-clip back on. You may need an assist. Sometimes you can do it by hand. Sometimes you need a little assist. I guess if you can do this, you're qualified to go work in the Penn factory making these things, because you essentially have taken the whole thing off. All right, just make sure that this it's got a nice smooth operation to it, which it does. Next part up then, we have a double section here. Excuse me. On the back end here you have, I call them goalposts with a hole in the middle of it. On your eccentric you have a spring that has a 90-degree turn to it. You want to make sure that that spring goes through the goalposts like that. And then you can take the assembly, bring it over the top of your pinion gear shaft, bring it into the line, and we're all set there. Bring our rotor over, and the top end will be complete. Tighten your rotor nut down. Go to your parts tray and get the clamp, the tie down screw, and that top end is done now. Spin it, make sure everything's working properly. And you can see, even as it sits, we have the anti-reverse working well. Next up, I want to clean up and re-lubricate the main gear that we removed. And you can see there's a lot of dirt in there, so there's something that was happening with this reel along the way. Okay, time for a new towel there. When you clean the main gears and the like, I do recommend that you put a buffer between your desk or your workbench and the part you're working on, like this. That keeps the dirt off of your main work surface. All right, inspect the teeth. I was kind of doing that as I was pulling through with the brushes. I also know that I inspected the reel beforehand and it was working fine other than having the broken foot. Grease gets placed on the teeth of the secondary gear, which drives your oscillation gear. We can bring that over. Then we have a shim washer and the bearing. Those can be put back on. If I didn't oil the bearing before, we'll do that now. Next up then is our crosswind block. Get grease in the cavity and the face. That's the only parts that need grease there. Set it over the stud so that it will oscillate. And let's go take a look quickly at what's going on here. This is your bottom cap. Your bottom cap has a screw assembly in it. It has a spring and it has a eared washer. The other part of the assembly has your drag washers in it. These drag washers are new. We're in good shape, and it has the click ratchet. When you work on this, make sure if you take this apart that this little click maker here, this round pin, is inside this little retention ring. That's going to rub against the grooves in the back here, and it's going to make your noise. So bring that over. Make sure you're seated here, that it sits flat in, and then that can just be simply put back in. Sometimes more simply than others. There we go. I was just bumping up against the this little tail here. Okay, take your time. Be patient. Don't force anything. Lessons learned. Let's get that shaft in. Very light coating of grease onto the shaft. Bring that through your top. All the way down through your crosswind block, merged in with your ratchet. Find your two slots. One goes high and one goes low in the ratchet for that gate. Let's bring that clip in there. Align the hole in your clip with the crosswind block. And we have a little screw that holds that on. These are the ones that always give me trouble. Those of you that are watching are waiting for me to drop it, I'm sure. We'll put that back together. And that's the inside of your reel. Well, remember what we did or didn't do. We didn't replace any of the pieces and parts here. Didn't need to remove them. A good amount of oil is a nice piece to keep it fresh. We're just going to bring this over now. We're going to aim our stud here for the hole in the case there. And when you get a nice tight, well, in that case, kind of a sucking noise or a pop or whatever you want to call it, you know you've got that seated properly. You need to make sure that all of your seams are tight. When I go to reset the case screws, I noticed that they were all the same size. They all have these little clear washers on them. And what I do best with these is to do an X pattern. That keeps the tension on the case correct. I'll switch over to yet another screwdriver. This one works good for getting them in. It's just the last turn it starts to slip, so I'll go back to a flat blade with those. And we're kind of sort of running out of pieces and parts here, which is a good thing. Come over to this side, place that one in there, and then we got one more up top. Put the lever back on, put the handle back on. Take a quick look at his drag washers and get this one out there fizzing again. All right. As I mentioned, they get just that last piece and that starts to slip. So I'm just going to go back to my flat bladed screwdriver for that last quarter turn. Tightening them up along the way. You want to make sure they're tight. If you're on a boat, the boat vibrations are killer. They can shake those free pretty quickly. Here's your other side of your lever. Align that so that you can put the trip lever screw through there. That's the last part in my parts tray. I think that's good. Well, if you're still with me, thank you for watching. I want to thank our first responders, our police, fire, safety, and rescue. They do a great job. I appreciate everything it is that they do and their career selection, choice, and dedication to task. I do appreciate it. All right, we're going to take a little kitchen scrubby here that has some Penn rod and reel cleaner on it. That sticks around for a while. Clean up the reel here. Let's just go up top real quick on the drag washers, make sure that everything is okay in here. This is held in by a retention spring. Hold your finger on that spring when you go to remove it. It sits in a groove above your washers. We'll bring those out. These are HT100 washers. Penn changed the design with the, I think it was the 3rd series. They went away from the felt washers in your traditional set. They went over to these HT100s, which is their hybrid version. And, well, you can, but you don't have to put grease on them. I do. I'm putting some grease onto these. They have round keyed washers for the intermediaries. There are no eared washers in this. This acts as the eared washers with the studs. When you put grease on it, make sure you can still see the cross hatching on the washer. If you can't, if you got too much on it, you're just wasting grease. The pressure of the drag adjuster knob coming down on that will simply squeeze it out and render it ineffective. The last of the drag washers. One more here. Find your groove in the spool. And this is a relatively easy spring to reset. It sits in that spool. I'll wind this around here. I think I need a rubber band to hold that tight. Put this on and give it a test. thing we've forgotten is the handle. Okay, let's give it the test then. Turns free and easy. Bail works. Let's go into bait feeder mode. That's going to release your spool to let line out. That should trip back when we turn the handle. Trips back. That should lock your spool in. This one's ready to go fishing again. Oh, I hope you've enjoyed that. Before I leave, I want to encourage you one more time to subscribe. If you like the video, please like it. And I wish everybody fun fishing, great times on the water. And, well, if you're into the reel repair, I wish you the best of luck in servicing and keeping those reels going and giving them a second chance. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.